The first item on the formal agenda is public comment time, and we have one person prepared to speak at the moment, Ms. Judy Smith, related to the Planning Commission information meeting.
Hi, my name is Judy Smith. I'm from the Union Bridge area. I happened to go to the Planning Commission meeting the other day because it was raining and I couldn't garden. It was my first time of having gone to one of these meetings. And I went because I was curious about the phrase economic relief. Well, at the meeting on the table was this pack of information about changes that are being proposed by the Board of Commissioners. And interestingly enough, one of these was dated in February. So you all have been, or at least part of you have been involved in this since February. The only relief I can see in this as a citizen is it's giving relief to the developers to, according to Mr. Rothschild, to streamline the process. But it seems to me that if you read this in the entirety, you see that the public is being cut out of the process. And in a couple of cases, evidently, there's a possibility that the state law is not being followed. The Planning Commission would not be the person who would ultimately sign off on these developments. The next day after the meeting, there appeared in the paper a notice of a public hearing about some of this information in this packet. But it doesn't include the two segments that are the first items in this table of contents on site development review process and the major residential subdivision review process. So is there going to be a separate meeting about that? Because I would be very concerned about changes that are being proposed that there really has not been very much information, if at all, given to the general public about what's being proposed. So is there going to be another informational hearing or public hearing on those two segments? And also on the website, which you do finally give a little information about it, does it show the original wording of the various components versus what is being proposed? When you read the public hearing notice itself, you don't know what you're reading. I mean, it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. And it seems to me that the public is not aware of what is being proposed. I don't think anybody elected you all, except a few people, to have the Carroll County opened back up to development. One of the things that was mentioned by Mr. Rothschild was increasing the tax base. But I think most people think that the tax basis should be changed on the basis of industry, or not more houses. And this is an effort to pull the wool over the public's eyes as far as I look at it. I think it's a little deceitful myself. And I'd like to know when the public is going to have a chance to look at the original documents as well as the proposed changes, where the lines are being struck out so you can see the original intent. There was a balance that was struck between the government and the people in the last couple of boards. This is being taken apart. And I don't see the purpose of it being done myself. And I also don't understand why it has to be pushed through so quickly. It seems as though the ink was barely dry on the lines of your contract with the county before people started to work on this. So is there going to be another hearing concerning the site development changes?
Ms. Smith, you made some pretty strong comments. I think we should probably respond to all of that, including the question you just asked. First of all, there's absolutely nothing being done to be deceitful. In fact, we're putting out information in mass quantities. We've had not only open to every one of these discussions has been open. We have don't we have a meeting prepared for this, or we're going to schedule something?
There's an informational meeting on Monday.
Okay.
But the things that are listed in the public notice don't pertain to the site development or the major subdivision changes.
Well, the copy
it's just the other portions.
Okay. Well, the copy that is on the website has the original version with the strike-throughs.
I haven't had a chance to look at that.
Okay, so all that correction is on there. And I don't want to speak for everybody because everybody's certainly more than welcome to speak, but part of the reason that this is so imperative is because of the process we just went through. It becomes clear that in the years going forward, the tax base will not substantiate or support the services that the people are demanding. And we know we need economic development. That's what we were elected for. Now, in that process,
this doesn't seem to address, bringing industry. It seems to, favor eliminating the public from being able to comment on developments.
Not at all. We're trying to get more input from the public earlier on in the process.
Well, if you all identify, where is the holdup in the process? Where is the element that seems to be taking up the most time?
Well, and we'll get you-
address it that way.
Yeah, we'll get you the actual date, but we actually discussed this at length at a public meeting with the Planning Commission. And so that whole process, where the holdups were, where they got input, what they did with the input when they got it, was part of that whole discussion.
As I say, I thought the term economic relief meant bringing, new businesses and marketing effort. I had no idea that it meant this.
Well,
And I think most people didn't.
Well, I think you need to understand that there's a much broader aspect to it, which is it's more than one thing. On the one hand, we're doing a lot to attract businesses, to get commercial properties in place, to put infrastructure in place, to reach out to programs like the base relocation, and to bring business in. But the single biggest obstacle we hear to bringing business in is the development process. That it's too cumbersome, that it's too long, that it's too subjective. Now, a lot of improvements have been made in it, but these are steps to make sure that when people want to come here and invest in Carroll County and bring their businesses here, that they have the ability to do so effectively. And to do that, we've got to improve the reputation and the process that we go through. So it's part of a much bigger picture. And we're fully aware of the concerns about development and adequate facilities and all of those things. But frankly, every time we take a step in the direction of economic development, this is the kind of, I think, somewhat over-the-top reaction that we hear. We're very willing to have.
I'm not being over the top, sir.
Well, when you call us deceitful, and we've had 3 open meetings, I would say that's over the top.
I said it appears to be deceitful. Everything is perception,
Deceitful is a strong word.
and it was intended to be such.
Okay, well, then,
Because I feel
as was my reaction to it.
calling it economic relief is like calling a janitor a sanitary engineer. So it's, I think that in that particular respect, calling it that instead of a revision of development regulations and things of that sort, I think that would have been a more honest way of presenting what you're trying to do.
Well, suggesting that deceitful is not strong, but more honest is a better word, I'm not sure is 100% true, and that may also be calling a janitor a sanitary engineer.
It's perception.
Okay, maybe, but the bottom line is the economic relief plan encompassed more than just the development review process. It encompassed the property tax relief. It encompassed also the tax credit for commercial enterprises that was just proposed. It's going out to public hearing. It's a much broader prospect. And I don't want to do all the speaking on this, but
I'd like to add 2 things.
Sure.
The site development plan that was presented is largely from work that economic development did. They had a committee that looked at it. We started with their work, and so it came right out of economic development, because when processes are streamlined, time is money, and when regulations are reduced, then that helps people in the business sector to be able to move forward without too much cost. So
I understand that.
That's the economic relief part, is reduced time, reduced hoops and things that you have to jump through, helps us to be more business friendly and encourages businesses that we have to expand and those that may be looking to come here, because it's a streamlined process.
I understand that, but in the actual changes that are being proposed, it eliminates a couple of opportunities for the public to be able to have any input. That's what I object to. I also object to not, the fact that there was the final say on the approval is going to perhaps be someone that the commissioners appoint rather than the planning commission. I think what it does is it marginalizes the planning commission that up until, now seems to have been doing a terrific job.
Yes,
And
I served on the
and
planning commission.
And they act as an
Excuse me,
agent
I'm
for the public.
Yes, and I served on the planning commission, and pretty much the way that is written is how it was then. And it's not the commissioners appointing someone, it's the chairman of the planning commission that signs off. And when you get to that last final phase, it pretty much all the decisions not pretty much, all the decisions have been made. The planning commission has weighed in and said, we approve this plan with these conditions. And the final comes back with just saying, yep, they did that, they did that, they did that. The final is, kind of a formality in signing off. And so by preliminary plan, you're finished, really. The final is just checking that everything that was said that needed to be done was done, and you're finished. So it's almost a formality at that point.
Well, I don't see that the system is broke. Why fix it? It seems to me that the current method has served the public as well as the commissioner board very well. Why change it? I mean, I understand the concept about saving, some of the developers' time.
Right.
And it may be an appealing thing, but I don't, as a citizen paying taxes for, this process, I would much rather see it done in a thorough manner rather than push it through. And I think that this is, going to enable it to be pushed through
Okay,
without as much
thank you.
scrutiny.
If you have a final, the time
That's fine.
limit.
I've taken up more
Right.
time than I should have.
And I
So
would
thank
just,
you for hearing.
Actually, I want to just clarify something. Thank you, Ms. Smith, but we haven't eliminated the public from any process.
I didn't say it was eliminated.
Well, the term
I
was
said it's
used.
been cut down from, the
think-
opportunities for input have been cut down severely.
The public, during all development processes, the public will have anywhere from, depending on which process it is, anywhere from 2 to 4 opportunities to come to hearings and testify on all different types of development. They have not been eliminated from any of the processes, though.
And it's really to help identify where they can really have input, because by the time you get to the final, like I said, it's really already been approved.
Well, that's just one
So we
element.
want to help the public not waste their time and give their input where it's appropriate.
So is there going to be a hearing concerning the first 2 elements on this draft?
The first 2 elements on the draft do not require a hearing. They will be part of the workshop to gather more information and bring back to the board in the policy manual. And the board will review those changes and adopt those changes in the manual in open session.
Okay.
I'd just like to say in conclusion, the notion of where this came from and why it's important is because when we came on board and we recognized that, when you have a community, all you can really do on the long term is either cut services or increase taxes on citizens or have more people contributing to the pot. And that's where the need for economic development comes from. And as we're out campaigning and talking to folks and asking businesses and working with our economic development folks, and actually didn't just come from our economic development department, but actually came from the Economic Development Commission, which are private citizens and businesses in the community. What we're being told is the reason why we're not getting more business here is because of some of the unpredictability in the processes. And so we're responding to that specific need, which in turn is the need to be able to provide services and keep taxes under control. So this was not something we just dreamt up, and it's not necessarily for the benefit of the developers. It's so that we can move forward with economic development and continue to provide services and keep the tax rates even reasonable. So.
Well, it will be interesting to see how it plays out, because your constituents probably do not want any more housing development than is already here, and it sort of overloaded the county when we had that big burst. We couldn't keep up with concurrency, and some of the other things were heavily taxed as far
And
as
I don't
water
think
and
this
whatever.
changes any of that. I mean, I don't think adequate
It'd be
facility.
interesting to see how it plays out.
We'll
So-
look forward